I'm going to introduce Mitch. So it is an absolute pleasure to introduce somebody whose life story doesn't just inspire, it challenges us to rethink what's possible when passion, purpose and perseverance come together. Mitch Hutchcraft is a former Royal Marine, an adventurer, a mental health advocate, and now someone who completed what's believed to be the world's longest ascent of Everest from sea to summit. He started by swimming in the English Channel. Mitch cycled across continents, ran to Kathmandu and climbed to the top of the world, all as part of a challenge he called Project Limitless. But Mitch's story is not only about physical endurance, it's deeply human. From losing his father as a young man, to being told he might never serve in the forces because of knee surgery, to rowing across the Atlantic and cycling solo across America, his journey has always been powered by more than muscle. It's been about mindset, meaning, and a deep commitment to something bigger than himself. Through his work as an ambassador for SouthSyn, Mitch raises vital awareness for veteran mental health and wildlife conservation. His message is one that resonates deeply with all of us here today, that even in the face of personal challenge, loss, or uncertainty, we can still find strength to take the next step, and even to summit the mountains in our own lives. So please give a very warm welcome to someone who lives and breathes the idea of possibility, Mitch Hutchcraft.
Lovely. Well, it's amazing to see you all. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Jenny. And it's amazing to be here as part of your Next Steps convention. I apologise in advance. I have severe ADHD, so if you can't understand me, please just shout. But this talk, as I said today, is not here for me to stand here and be like, look what I've done, look at all these things. Most of these things I've done just started off as childhood dreams I had as a young boy, and became an opportunity to kind of show the world, to show everyone here. It doesn't matter if you're a 10-year-old in school or a 60-year-old. The only person that knows the definition of possible genuinely is looking at the mirror. So that's all I care about today is for you to walk away from here taking away one of these small steps, these 9 pillars that I've created, which is coming out in the book soon, to help you in your daily life. Because as I said, this isn't about the extreme adventurers, this is about every single day people, and this is about me. This is not just about me, this is about how you can get through them hard moments which seems impossible. So I'm lucky enough to have just survived the longest climb of Mount Everest in history, and it was the first ever triathlon to the top of the world. And what does that look like? Little bimble. 237 days. Yeah, 237 days non-stop, 13,157 kilometres of swimming, cycling, running, trekking and climbing. Day 1 in Dover, day 237 on the summit of Mount Everest. Day 1 was a 35k swim across the English Channel, by far the hardest day of my entire bloody life. 18 hours, 19 minutes, my tongue was disintegrating, I inhaled so much water, I was aspirating. Every other boat in the channel that day had to turn around, but we managed to push through the weather, and after that I was broken for 5 days and I couldn't even move. I had to have 2 people carry me if I needed to go to the toilet. Now, knowing that I had to then get up and then cycle 12,000k and then run to Everest and climb it, my head nearly exploded. So after a few days of working myself off, we began the 11,921 kilometre cycle across 18 countries across the planet. And there was a lot of interesting stuff with that. I was meant to be going through Iran. Not a good place if you're a former Marine, because you'll get in, but you probably won't get out. So we had to go south. I ended up going from Turkey through the entire Middle East, the whole of Iraq, Baghdad, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Oman, and it turned into an interesting adventure of human experience as well, which became one of the things I'm most thankful for. Which then became into the second most painful part of the expedition, going straight into a 900-kilometre ultramarathon from sea level to Kathmandu. Because for me, the dream as a 6-year-old, which we'll come on to in a minute, was always to climb Everest from sea, to go from zero to the top of this planet. So I kind of went off track a bit. I kind of gave myself an extra 1,000k, but that's fine. An extra couple of weeks, just to keep the dream pure for me. Yeah, so that was the hardest part, but obviously going from anyone who knows running or cycling, and I'm actually genuinely a very shit runner and a very shit cyclist, genuinely. I've never cycled before I was 25, more than 50 miles in one day. I've never ran, I've had 2 knee surgeries. So transitioning from an 11,921k bike ride, that was 4.5 months of cycling 10 hours a day. 150k a day across 18 countries, straight into a 900k run when you've not ran a single kilometre in 6 months. It was agony. I was on every painkiller you can imagine. That's at 360, and I'm not there anymore, so finished. So then it was a 360k hike from Kathmandu to Everest Base Camp and then to the summit. I know what you're all thinking. Why? Idiot. Just basically, what an idiot. As I said, this is not about, like, look at me. When I first planned this, I had no care about records. I didn't even know it was the longest climb of Mount Everest in human history until a year after I planned it, until my friend said, you should really, try and get someone to film this or shout about it to show the world what possible really is, and that how we are just so held back in society by people telling us, that's not possible, that's not possible. So I made it a mission of mine for many reasons to show what is possible, to show the most extraordinary journeys genuinely start from the most ordinary places. I'm no different to every single one of you sat here. I know it sounds silly, but I'm not, honestly. I was just a kid with ADHD, grew up in the council estate, who was told by everyone, you're not going to go everywhere. Most of my family thought I'd end up in prison by the time I was 15. And that's not even a joke. It's not about being exceptional, it's about proving that exceptional was a choice, willing to take that first step. And as I say, one of the most important messages for today, the only person who knows the definition of the word possible is you. Not the person next to you, no, not your friends, not your family, you. You control your own possible. Now, this is just a quick wee intro and to show you where it began and the little intro of how it began. It began with a dream and it went from there. In 100 days, I will begin a race from the UK to the top of Mount Everest. 12,000 kilometres of swimming, cycling, running, trekking and climbing. We're taking from the shores of England to the top of the world. Good, we're ready to go. Alright, it's not going to work too much in this. We're about to cycle 11,500 k. Doing begins. Around London, all extra countries. We don't really listen to that. Look down the back there, the most eastern point of the Arabian Peninsula. Come on! 5 days to find a boat to Pakistan.
Sometimes things are solvable, you can't let it stop you. It's just at all.
That's literally the Indian border right there.
Phase 2 is officially complete. 1,200 k on foot. Having to burn a couple of times, that level of pain. We need sweaters with a tough step on foot. Country 19, and I'm in Kathmandu.
In the British Embassy to replicate one of the greatest achievements in human history.
30,000 k, top 10 hardest days, and there are 200.
It's the fullest rotation we've ever seen. Each individual step is all about.
Here we are, so up with this east. What's left now to do is the second rotation. Soldiers in me, our amazing is to be here.
Next time we go on this ladder, it's not enough done. Until die, let's come down to this, mate.
I'm about to go summit of Everest. It's just a wee intro into how it all began. Now, before we dive into the most important part of why, everyone wants to know why, it's we'll jump to the how medically. So I was told, is it even physically possible? Everybody told me that it simply wasn't what they didn't know. Leading sports scientists, doctors, altitude specialists, nutritionists, fitness professionals, you name it. I was working with Loughborough University and everyone was just baffled. The question was, after a 13,000 kilometre triathlon, is your human body, will it then be capable of climbing Mount Everest? And that was the question I wanted to prove to everyone. Most importantly, is it logistically possible? Now, the biggest challenge of this was not the physical part. Ironically, the physical part of a nearly a 9,000 mile triathlon didn't bother me one bit, it was the logistics. I had less than 5% of the money needed to even finish when I swam across the English Channel. Not a penny. I quit work 18 months before doing security, 6 months before the expedition without a penny in my pocket. Well, I had a couple of grand in savings that I'd had from the Marines still. And that was it. I made thousands of phone calls, went to every event you can imagine, hundreds of emails, honestly hundreds of meetings, just to see. And luckily, 1 or 2 people took a little chance. So we started with 5%. But swimming that English Channel nearly 19 hours, the hardest day of my life, not knowing if we had the money to even get across Europe, let alone across the world, let alone to Everest, let alone the 50 grand just to climb Everest, that took more willpower and more mental health, mental resilience than anything, which we're going to dive into. But it's the same theory that anyone here can take away. So we had less than 5%, quick work support, the visas and bureaucracy. We didn't even know who I was climbing Everest with. When we left to swim the channel, we went to go for Iran, that got turned off. So during the cycle through Turkey, we then had to decide to go for Iraq. The uncertainty of not knowing every single day whether you're even going to complete it, but being fueled by that one dream, being fueled with this dream to prove that absolutely anything is possible. People ask about nutrition. I On the expedition, I'll just go into it very quickly, people will ask that later maybe, simply eating as much as you can, as often as you can. I was told to eat about 8 to 10,000 calories a day. Obviously that couldn't happen when you're on the roads, sleeping somewhere new every night, in the desert, who knows what you're going to find. So I would just eat as much as I can, as often as I can. I lost nearly 20 kilos, 18 kilos. I was 96 kilos when I swam the channel, and I was 78 when I swam at Everest, which is actually a lot less than people thought. A few medical complications that we had: fungal infections, tendinitis, tonsillitis, food poisoning, anemia, dog bites, 2 knee reconstructions on naproxen and codeine to even get through, HAPE and HACE, high altitude sickness, which a lot of you probably heard of. Most important was the risk of death or exhaustion when reaching Everest, and now, even now, with hormone fluctuations from coming down with the biggest adrenaline high of my entire life. So the how is the how to endure, and the why is why we're here today, really. I produced it into 9 pillars, in its 9 chapters of my book that's coming out. As I said, I'm no psychiatrist. I've got no formal qualifications. I'm just a boy who figured it out along the way through loss, through grief, through expeditions. I just found what worked for me. But some of the foundations here, it's the same fundamental foundations to every human. Taking baby steps, all these things we're going to go into now, everyone here can relate to it, because it's all proportionate as well. As we're going to come on to soon, it doesn't matter if it's Everest or if it's your first 5K walk. Your Everest is your Everest. It doesn't matter what the person next to you is. So I'm going to bring you back to the beginning, just to how it started. So redefine impossible. For me, it all started as a 6-year-old. The gap between dreaming and I have to say, the gap between dreaming and achieving is measured by action. That is it. The gap between dreaming and achieving, simply measured by action and the courage just to take that first step. So for me, it started 6 years old. I sat in the farm. My nan read me a book, Brian Blessed, absolute legend. I'm sure some of you will agree. He tried to climb Everest a couple of times. And I remember I was sat there and I was 6 and I said, "Nan, I'm climbing Everest." I still remember we sat around the Sunday roast and her and my dad just laughed at me. But that was it for that moment. But as with anything, no matter what your career is, it takes one small step at a time. You don't just wake up and you go and climb Everest. You don't just wake up and be where you want to be in your careers tomorrow. One tiny step at a time. So I knew. 10 years later, it's the first time I got to really take my first step. 14, 15 years old, I saved up for 2 years just labouring and doing paper rounds to save up to fly to Africa completely on my own to climb Kilimanjaro. I flew out there, met my 64-year-old guide, and we climbed Kilimanjaro. For me, I knew that was the first step to climbing Everest, to get some experience at that altitude, just to test my body. That was the first time that I realised all these social limitations that our society puts on us of, "Oh, that's not possible, you should be in the park drinking." No, I'm going to go and do this. And I came back and everyone was like, "Oh, okay, maybe he can." 2 years later, Everest Base Camp, I knew that if I could go to Everest and see it with my own eyes, that would be all I needed. I remember coming around that corner for the first time and laying my eyes on that summit. It was lit up golden red in the morning sun, and I still remember the feeling of the tears running down my face, honestly, like it was yesterday. But then, as with everything, adversity hits us hard. Everything seems to happen in one go, which is the second chapter and the second pillar of today, which we'll go on to in a minute. Adversity equals power. How it doesn't matter what adversity comes, no matter what shape it is, especially grief or injury or loss or doubt, every single one of it is amazing. It's all power. It's a positive. And I don't like the sound of it like it is. I moved to Australia when I was 19 and then suddenly tore my knee and had to have 2 knee surgeries. A full knee ACL reconstruction, meniscal surgery, slight MCL. I was told by the doctors point blank I'd never be able to play tennis again. I told him I would maybe like to join the military one day, and he literally just said, like, "There's no chance. There's literally no chance with your level of injury." And then a few weeks later, I got the call that we all dread. At 19, "No, your dad's got 2 weeks to live." Oh, great. Back on the plane, everything seems to happen at once. I'm limping around, doing the eulogy for my dad's funeral. Everything happens at once. But I made a promise on my dad's deathbed. The last thing I ever said to him was, "Dad, I promise to make you prouder than you ever dreamed possible, ever in your wildest dreams." I walked out of that hospice and I kept that dream. I kept that promise. So I sat in the gym 6 months later and I studied my injury, trained 7 days a week, 3 hours a day, studied my injury. Luckily for me, there was no record of my knee surgery in the UK records because I had done it in Australia. So I thought there's only one way of knowing if I'm going to pass one of the most elite training programs in the world is dedicate myself to it. And again, show everyone that I defined my possible, not everyone else. Not doctors, not my friends, not my colleagues at work that told me you're not good enough. there's no fucking way you can do this. So I studied 7 days a week, 3 hours a day, and luckily I was one of 7 of 72 to get through in one go. Fast forward 6 years of amazing time in the Royal Marines, and I come out, 2021, 2 weeks later, a friend said to me, do you want to row across the Atlantic Ocean? 3,000 miles of nothing but ocean, and storms and wildlife, sharks, whales. It became one of the greatest adventures of my life. So a 5-meter boat, rowing for 3 hours, 3 hours on, 3 hours off, 3 hours on, non-stop for several weeks from Spain to the Caribbean. And this is where, again, I began to see that these limitations, it's bollocks, all of it. I know what's possible. I'm going to create possible. And this is where the idea for Limitless came into my head. The dream, I'd always dreamed of climbing Everest from sea level. That came a bit later. I always wanted to swim the channel as well. So I remember having this light bulb moment. I know it's a bit stupid, ADHD probably. I turned around to my friend and said, no, let's climb Everest from England. Obviously he was like, shut up. So I had this idea, okay, I'll swim to France, then I'll cycle across the entire world, and then I'll run and hike to Everest, and then I'll climb it in the ultimate adventure of my entire life. And we'll make history along the way, and we'll try and inspire the world that anything is possible. I do, again, it takes baby steps. So the year later, as I said, I'm not joking, I've never cycled more than 50 miles. I don't like cycling. I brought a bike, took it to Florida, and just biked to California on my own. About 140k a day, just to see how much I could do every day, get the test to it. And you train for a 10k, you start with a 3k. That was my idea, because this was roughly half the distance of my expedition across the world. I actually ended up doing over 1,000k extra because my maths is really bad. So it turned, starting with this 12,000k, it turned into 13,000. But this was a great test of what was to come. And then 1 year later, I knew you can't just go and climb Everest, I need to still do more training. So again, I was working 12-hour shifts, literally 25 days a month, 5 days off to raise money. I went to climb Amadablan, which is a beautiful mountain near Everest. That mountain poking up the top there, over my shoulder, that's Mount Everest. This mountain's actually more technical than Everest as well. So I thought, if I can do this, I can do that. In the Marines, in the military, we have a saying, train hard, fight easy. Same as you, work hard in your training, work hard, and when it comes to the actual day, same reason why you're doing this, same reason why you do hard training. So when it comes to it, you're going to be able to do it. So that was my thought process. Let's do this. I nearly died on this one as well, because I had laryngitis and an infection at 7,000 meters, and it was not very nice. I won't go into that. And then 18 months ago, stupidly, 1 month before swimming the channel. So I swam the channel September 15th last year, so August last year, 1 month before the channel, I did a world record in the Lake District, swimming the full length of every single lake in the Lake District back to back, and running between them with my dog, my golden retriever, who's here, maybe you can see him later. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so the first 2,000 kilometres from Calais to Budapest, as you saw, I pulled my golden retriever in a doggy trailer for the first 2,000k, because I love him so much, and I know it's a stupid idea putting a 30-kilo golden retriever, but I needed my boy with me. I'm a massive animal lover, and the mental health, the positive mental health he gave me was far outweighed the extra work, even though when I started cycling, I could only use one hand because my rotator cuff was torn and my tongue was still falling apart. We won't go into that. So what made it all feel impossible? So all these setbacks, obviously I don't stand Scouse, I know. I come from the flattest part of the UK, even though most of my family is all from Liverpool, so I do love it up here, and I'm sorry I'm a Liverpool fan. Well, not sorry, thank you, yeah, exactly. So I grew up, went to the games, so I love being here. This part of the world is very close to my heart. But I grew up in the flattest part of the UK. Council estates, ADHD as a kid. I was kicked out of 3 playgroups growing up. They couldn't take me anywhere, not even to public places. Everyone thought it was going to be impossible. Knee injury, reconstruction, self-doubt, doubt from others, and grief, most importantly. So redefining possible, you just saw my little journey of redefining possible. There's no exact science. You've all got your own journey of what that means, redefining possible. There's no secret. I redefined what was possible for me and just kept on going one thing at a time. So, which brings us on to another pillar, proportionality. Success is completely relative. One person's 5k is the same as the next person's marathon. This is especially important for young kids. I'm sure you'll tell this to all the kids you work with. Never compare yourself to anyone, especially not these idiots on TikTok and social media, okay? I don't. There's plenty of people out there that are fitting better than me. I don't care. I'm my own person. Never measure your worth by someone else's mile. After world records, channel swims, global expeditions, one of the toughest days of my entire bloody life was my first 5k run after I tore my knee. I was on codeine, I was like limping. It was just one of the worst things I've ever done. Effort is relative. Struggle isn't always visible. As I said, your limitless might be walking a mile. getting out of bed after you've lost your mum, your dad, your brother. That is your Mount Everest. Or simply trying again. It doesn't matter if it's a 5K walk. It might be, trying something new. Okay? Never compare yourself to anyone else. Proportionality is one of the most important pillars that I live by and try to stand. The anatomy of resilience. Now, we've all heard the word resilience. There's kind of a million definitions. But for me, it's very simple, and I like you to take away a little concept. And Legend Ross actually said it best. So, all resilience is your own strategic ability to manage pain. Your strategic ability to manage pain. That's all it is, mentally. So, what does that mean? For me, find out why you're there, right? For me, I had my dad, the charity I was raising money for. I started to have messages from hundreds of kids telling me they just signed up for their first 5K run because they've been watching my videos. And that gave me more power than £1 million, I tell you right now. Find your strings to your bow, okay? That's the only way I managed to get through some of the hardest days of my life, is going flicking through these in my head, my strategic pain management, my resilience. And the more you do it, I promise you, the more you get used to it. The only way the human condition, human mind grows is through adversity. It's through being uncomfortable. Getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. I promise you, that's the only way you grow. Every time you do it, you unlock this extra thing inside you, and it makes you go even further. And I say this because I want you to see yourself in your story, in this story. It's all complete. Everyone's got the exact same journey. Everyone's been through it. Everyone's got their own struggles. Think about your strings of your bow, and next time something gets hard, like when I was swimming across the channel or doing this Lake District challenge, I just thought, Dad, for the charity, thought who I was doing it for. When one wears out, just flip to the next one. Flip to the next one. So your strategic pain management, use your resilience to get through anything. And that's the only way I managed to finish this challenge just before, a month before swimming the Lake District, which was actually really stupid because it nearly ripped me off for the channel swim. I just became the first person to run and swim every lake in the Lake District back to back. 64k of swimming and 102k of running. And here's how I did it. That's that being my longest swim of my life. So I'm done, 10 days. There's my number 6, 7 days. Yeah, it's all downhill from here, isn't it? Oh yeah, let's go. Do it. Things are progressively getting colder. Yeah, it's quite a lot. Massively swollen wrists on both sides. So we're going to take it easy, get some strong painkillers, and we're going to power through the second longest, deepest, and coldest of all the lakes. But thank God we've got a bit of sun today, and we'll get through it, mate. He is 3 lakes head to head. One more bloody lake. Every time we do a long run or a long swim, anything, you learn every time you do it. Well, I guess it all started with making my dad and family proud, but now it's turned into an opportunity, I think, to inspire as many people as possible. That if they believe in themselves, anything is possible. So I was very stupid before I went. It nearly ripped me off for the entire expedition. But like I said, train hard. When you do work, train hard and you'll get through it. Which brings us on to strategic pain management. So chapter 3, I think. Strategic pain management. So we've got a famous sign down at the Commando Training Centre in Livingston. It's a big cartoon figure that says it's only pain, 500 metres to go. All this you need to know about the slide is pain is temporary. That's it. That's all you need to remember. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Doesn't matter if it's physical, psychological, emotional, we've all been through it. You've lost your mum, you lost your dad, you lost your grandparents, you lost your brother. People are telling you can't do it. You're having a really hard day at work. When you get on work on a Monday, and you think, it's going to take, Friday's so long away. All that matters, just tell yourself, this works genuinely, this works for me. Just tell yourself it's going to end. Pain ends. That's simple as that. The only time we've got to worry if there's not a light at the end of the tunnel. But there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, I promise you now. Grief might last 1 day, 1 month, 6 months, 1 year. Eventually, things will get better. Tell yourself that and I promise you'll be fine. Pain feels endless until it ends. If you let it, I promise you, it can become your most powerful teacher. Swimming in the channel was the most painful day of my life. Every single stroke felt like I was drowning. My rotating cuff was torn. My tongue was literally, chunks were coming off it. I inhaled so much that I couldn't breathe anymore. Every breath was I was just fighting to stay alive for the last 6 hours. After 12 hours, the sun set. So I started swimming at 2 a.m. in the morning and I finished swimming at 11 p.m. the next night. So through the sun's right, not and you can't touch the boat, you can't even move. You have to just float if you want to, if you want to try. Every 30 minutes they throw you a drink on a bit of string, and you have to quickly drink that. Every 30 minutes, I had 37 of them to get through. But the only way I got through it was knowing it was temporary. I knew eventually I'd get to France and there'd be a cup of tea waiting for me. That got me through it. And throughout the whole expedition, I know it's 237 days. I knew there was a roast dinner waiting for me at home. And honestly, I knew it would end. So I blank everything else out in your head. I promise you, if you tell yourself pain is endless, it won't. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. Remember that. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from indomitable will. And I promise you, that's the truest thing in the world. I might look at, I'm not a superhuman. The main message of today, you don't have to be a superhuman, superman, superwoman, gifted athlete, polished influencer, you know, all this crap. You haven't got to be any of this to achieve your absolute wildest dreams. 99% belief. That's it. It's all in your head. You haven't got to come from anywhere. 5% of the money, you know, no support, no parents giving me, you know, being kicked out of these schools, anything is possible. This is just the story of how a kid with rage and ADHD got kicked out of multiple schools, went on to complete the longest time of ever in human history. But strategic pain management is the only way that I managed to get through the hardest day of my life. 18 hours and 19 minutes across the English Channel. Yesterday was by far the hardest 24 hours of my life. The goal? To swim over 35k through some of the strongest currents and business shipping lanes in the world. And hopefully I'll end up in the north of France. Wind and swell was set to pick up later in the day, so I had to push past these mega ships and make a move in the morning. Leaving England in the distance, that's when I really started to feel fatigue. Still so far from France, it's vital to keep my engine up. By this stage, the swell was huge and was really starting to throw me off. Every second of the sea, I was cheered on by my amazing team. As the sun goes down, I encounter even more problems. The feeling of swimming in complete darkness was hugely demoralising, especially because we had just found several boats ahead of us didn't make it. In this moment right here, it felt like a dream. Did I actually just swim to France? Day 1 of 237. Now it looks like I was fat there, but actually I just swallowed so much water that I was bloated. As I did, it was a lot of McDonald's and Ben Jerry's before I left. Honestly, for months it's so hard to put on weight, but that was mostly, I inhaled about 10 to 20 litres of salt water over the 18, 19 hours, so my gut was actually dissolving as well apparently, but that's fine. Which brings us on to the next, as I said, most important one. Adversity equals power. Injury, depression, grief, especially grief, hardship, failure. Every single one, I promise you, is on track for success. Everyone thinks it's a negative, I promise you it's a positive. Failure is your biggest superpower, okay? Great success is forged in failure, okay? And adversity, I promise you now, it sounds cheesy, but adversity is the architect of your greatest dreams, I promise you now. All it takes is a small change in perception, a small change in the way you think to flip that from a negative to a positive. So next time you lose someone like me and my father, I could have let it break. I had a choice. I'm going to let it break me or build me. It became that fire. Think of them all as fire. Grief, adversity, so grief, failure, especially doubt as well. Self-doubt, doubt from others. All of these are ingredients. I mean, next time somebody tells you you can't do it, that's great. Smile. Take it. I was told that a million times. That just fuel for the fire. So that when you come back and look them in the eye and tell them you've done it 10 times better, you can smile and you can laugh at them. Trust me, it's worth it. Every single one. Injury, doubt, study, rebuild, success. Every single one is an ingredient for your success. 6 months of studying my ACL reconstruction, 7 days a week of training. Adversity does not define you, only how you respond to it. And you all have that ability to switch that from a negative way of thinking to a positive. I know it's hard. I'm a positive man, ADHD, you know, I'm quite an optimist. A lot of you here are pessimists, yeah? It's hard, but everyone has the ability. You just got to try a bit bloody harder, okay? That's it. Honestly, it sounds hard, but you just got to work at it a bit more. Everyone has that same innate ability to flip adversity into your superpower. Sometimes the voices trying to limit you are literally giving you a blueprint, an unbelievable comeback. And thinking of this is the only way I managed to get through the 18 countries and the 12,000k of bike riding. This was finally it. After so many challenges, from being held at gunpoint to crashes, to illness, to impossible logistics, to brutal desert, humid jungle and freezing mountains, I was finally just a few kilometres from the end. As I sat there on the bike, trying to take in the moment, my mind drifted to one of my biggest motivators. And he replied, "As if I need more signs that my dad is watching. I haven't seen any JCBs in weeks, and I've seen 3 today. Dad's here. Dad's watching the last bit."
What does it mean to you to finish the cycle?
Well, massive. just excited and like privileged, proud as well, you know, bigger proud of myself, you know, and especially doing it straight off the back of the hardest day of my life by far, you know, crossing the Australia. Very proud and feel very humbled, feel very lucky, really lucky to have been here in one piece. Roads I've been on, being run through by the truck, stopped over, and so lucky and excited. I think the two main things, lucky and excited. I was in single digits now, getting closer. What a weird feeling! From 11,500 kilometres down to single digits. I've got 8 kilometres left. I can't even remember a time when I dared to dream of this bit. And closer. And that is it. You have just crossed into Digger, the tiny seaside town in West Bengal that I set my heart on 3 years ago. And we're here. Until finally I have arrived. We are 100 metres from the end. 100 metres of 11,500 kilometres, 17 countries, 132 days. The biggest stage of Limitless is now complete. We are there. Hey! Yes! Oh, it's been a long time. Yeah. Come on! Come on. Oh, man. Oh, crazy.
So proud of you.
Come on. Give it up one there.
Come on, you've got to touch the sea.
Oh, don't worry, I'm going. Phase 2 is officially complete in the Indian Ocean. Off we go. Alright, only a 900k ultra marathon and then 250k to Everest climbing to go. Easy. I only wish it was easy. It was not easy after that point. Come back to it really hard. But note to self, if ever you do a bike ride, don't ride into the ocean with your phone, your passport, your bag. I was so excited in my bags, I literally went straight in, I had everything. It took the 2 days, I had 2 days before starting that 900k run after the 11,920k ride. The whole 2 days was just going at my passport. As you can imagine, by the time I got there, it was all I cared about. And the JCB, so I grew up on a farm, my dad had the JCB. Genuinely, at every single country we went to, we were all 18, every single country I saw the JCB. And on the last day, I saw 5 in one day, on the tiny middle of nowhere in West Bengal, in rural India. So, I mean, of course, it's suspicious, but I know my dad was looking at me. On the boat, when things got hard, I'd look up every single time, just imagine him hanging over the boat screaming, "Come on." Our favourite film was Braveheart. I've literally got the tattoo with his initials on my arm of our favourite quote: "Every man dies, but not every man really lives." And I say that to myself over and over again, and it gets me through, it got me through absolutely anything. Which brings us on to the relentless pursuit of positivity. One of the commander ethoses in the Royal Marines is cheerfulness in the face of adversity. And this is very simple. Smile. When things are shit, smile. It sounds hard, but if you can be relentless in your pursuit of positivity and just try and force a bit of positivity and smile when things seem like the whole world's against you, you can get through anything. I remember being about 2,000k into the bike ride. Google Maps had taken me to a forest. I was making on the road. I was carrying my bike and dragging the dog trailer and the dog through knee-deep mud, knowing I still had 9,000k of cycling, 1,000k, 13,100k running and hiking and climbing out areas. And I nearly cried, but I remember just forcing a smile and imagining my dad there saying, "Bloody idiot." And I just smiled, and I laughed at myself. And just smiling, just being positive in that moment got me through. And it kept me going, every single matter. Swimming through the agony, and I remembered, pain doesn't last. There's always a path forward, and every struggle has an end, like we spoke about. Like I just spoke about the forest as well. But positivity, remember, isn't pretending everything's fine. It's finding magic in the little things and letting it shield you from the weight of negativity. Bit off tangent here, but that is the reason why I love doing these expeditions and why I want every one of you to go away from here today and just do something little to challenge yourself. Get a little bit uncomfortable. You might have always wanted to go for a dip in the sea in winter. I don't know, whatever it is. Make yourself uncomfortable, because doing this is what allows you to see the magic in the little things. When you go and do this, when you go camping for the first time or start up, I don't know, anything, it's not got to be physical. When you get back to the real world, back to reality, the little things you take for granted, that cup of tea, that hot shower, your bed, I promise you it will be the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life. I think that's why I'm addicted to it. I will always now be able to look at a cup of tea or a coffee and genuinely smile. And when you can start to see the magic in the little things, that's the definition of true happiness. But you only get there by making yourself uncomfortable. Get out of this little bubble everyone's so comfortable in. The only way you're going to grow is to push yourself and challenge yourself. Which brings us on to a very important one, the power of compartmentalization. You've all heard that, you probably heard it in training. Very simple, baby steps. Every experience built on the one before it. The ability to break down overwhelming goals into focused, manageable parts. In the Marines, we were taught to control the controllables. Don't get lost in the scale of the mission. Focus on the next task, the next step, the next breath. Now, same for you, exactly the same. You're at work, on Monday, whenever it is. You think of a Friday, it feels so far away. Okay? If you have a really shit week. All you have to think about is that first coffee break or lunch on that day. Don't think about anything past that. Before you know it, it'll be Tuesday. That's the only way I got through this. Every single person here, it relates to you as well. When I rode the Atlantic, we lost sight of land within 4 hours. No, we wouldn't see land again or another human being for nearly 2 months across the entire ocean. The closest human being was in the International Space Station. And I shat my pants. As you would. It all became too much. Because when we think about the end goal, when we think about finishing a course, think about the end of the week on the Friday when you're on Monday. It just becomes too much sometimes, doesn't it? Your mind just plays, it's so much, I'm not going to get there. Bring it back one day, one moment at a time. I brought it back to 1 day at a time. Before I knew it, we'd done 2 days. Before I knew it, we were halfway for a week. Before I knew it, we'd done 1,000 miles. Before I knew it, we were halfway across the ocean. One tiny baby step at a time. When I was cycling, after the hardest day of my life, genuinely dying in the channel, the only way I got through that 4.5 months of cycling across the world was bring it down 20 minutes at a time. It was 10 hours a day for 137 days. I didn't think of anything past 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, no matter where I was, and I was in pretty precarious places, I'd get off the bike after 20 minutes, had an alarm, and I'd get off, touch my toes, have a little stretch, get back on. That way I never had to think past 20 minutes at a time. And I felt good. And then I was only having 3 minutes of rest every hour. Before you knew it, I'd cycled across Europe. Before you knew it, I was in India, and I'd cycled across 18 countries, and I was nearly at Everest. Same for you. Focus on that next break, that next day. Don't think about the end goal. It becomes too big. 40% rule, you probably heard that, but when your brain feels like everything's over, so when you feel like you're at your absolute limit, you're actually only at 40% of what you can actually do. So just push yourself. Every time you push yourself just that little bit further, you unlock an extra percentage. Every single time, you unlock more potential in yourself. And on the run as well. So as I said, the second most painful time of my life was going from a bike ride straight into a 877k run. I've had 2 knee surgeries. I'm a shit runner, genuinely. I was on naproxen, I was on codeine. I was having to do at least 35k a day every day for 3 weeks after 4.5 months of cycling. The only way I got through it, headphones in, classical music, bit of rock, me and my dad's favourite music, 1 song at a time. So I'd run for 2 songs, and then I'd kind of limp for 1. Run for 2, limp for 1. All I thought about was getting to the end of that song. Before you knew it, I'd run across India. That's the only way I got through that pain. Breaking it down 1 tiny step at a time. The power of compartmentalization. And it applies to every single one of you here. Leave here today, I promise you can do it. That's the only way I got through the next most painful part of the expedition. I was in a state of pure ecstasy as I ran the final 30k to the end. The constant pain that had been beating me down for the last month gone completely, replaced by sprint-finished power.
Where are these not come from?
Oh, quick, go, go!
Wow, fair play.
Nothing could shake my mood. Not the massive elevation or the rocky dirt tracks, my blisters or my strings. The pain is ending today.
Describe how you're feeling in 1 sentence, Mitch.
Like I'm floating!
Mate, it's the end of the fucking road.
This isn't real. I'm going to wake up tomorrow.
In Turkey.
In Turkey, in the bus, in -5. This was all just a good dream. And it's going to be back to not feeling in my hands and knowing I've got like 8,000 kilometers left ahead of me.
It's crazy to think how far you've come.
But it wasn't a dream. I had just passed into Kathmandu. I'm in Kathmandu. After 900k, I'm only 3k. 3k from the finish line. I'm only 2k from the finish line. And I genuinely just can't even believe it. The very last kilometre. Very last K. Here we go. That is the palace. 500 metres till the end. I just can't believe it. I can't believe I'm in Kathmandu. I can't believe I'm actually got here by human power. This feeling is so thankful to be here. So thankful to be alive. To finish a 900-kilometre ultra-marathon after 12,000 bike rides and swimming the channel. This is it. Yay! Thank you so much. Thank you, man. Oh, thank you guys.
Mitch, come here, give me a hug.
Ah, come in.
Righty, buddy. Did it. Did it.
Ah, yes. Thank God. It's a long way to go, but this was a big milestone. Well, really big, you know. This was I didn't know if my body would carry me for running for 900 kilometres, you know. Mate, I was pumped. I was crying the whole way down. You did the whole way down, mate. I never did.
I've got it down. Well, look at it.
I never do. Well,
It's huge, man. This is a huge moment. Like, being in it, I'm really, really proud of you. Come through and we'll pull up again.
we both have. We both have. We both have. My head was spinning as we walked down the street. The pain was over. That tiny kid dreaming of Everest had somehow come to here. Now, 12,832k into completing a triathlon to the top of the world. Oh, wow. I'll stop that one there. That's the only way I got through that last bit. Power of compartmentalisation and knowing that the pain would end. After this, it was just another 360k hike and then climbing Everest. So I was nearly there. Nearly there. At this point, I knew running would be the next hardest thing. If I could get through that, I could get through a hike. It was 20 kilo pack, and the hottest part of the entire expedition was from Kathmandu to Everest. But the best part of that as well after is back when Edmund Hillary first climbed Everest back in 1953, there was no hotels in Kathmandu, so at the incline the British ambassador was waiting for me and they invited me to stay in the embassy because he stayed in the embassy back in 1953. So we ended up staying in the embassy, me and my partner, having breakfast, replicating exactly how it happened in 1953. So we replicated the first ever climb of Mount Everest in history, the longest ever climb of Mount Everest in history, word for word, as we made history, and it was just the most amazing moment for myself. Which brings us on to the last, the most important, last chapter of the book, the last pillar, purpose beyond self. Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how, and you've all got it. Everyone's got their own purpose beyond self here. But it's important to say, I didn't say this before, people can stand up here and say, I've done this, I've done this, I've done it for charity, I've done it for my dad, I've done it for my mum. The most important person in the entire world is you. I'm the most important person. If you can't make yourself happy, if you can't be proud of yourself, if you're not doing it for yourself, you're not doing this right now for yourself as well, then none of that matters. Okay? But beyond yourself, even though that's the most important thing, having a purpose beyond just you will give you the biggest push, superpower you've ever had. Honouring loved ones through action. Say, I lost my dad to cancer. A couple of years later, my cousin I was really close with committed suicide, and it left me a choice, and my family. It broke everyone. Let it bury me, or let it build me beyond what I could ever imagine. You don't have to move on, you move forward. And I carried them with me, I promise you, for every single one of the 13,157k, as all of you probably carry your loved ones with you. But they're looking down, and you're going to push forward and make them proud and make them every dream possible. Not just that, the charity, I had this beyond as well. I had all these, and then I had goals that outlasted me as well. I started off with my goals, but then I started to get messages from all these hundreds of kids, especially young people from me, which gave me the boost. As I said, worth more than £1 million. It's having, when I'm down in the dumps at 10,000k in, when I get a message from a 15-year-old telling me they've just signed up for the first 10k for them to watch my videos, the next for 2 days is sorted for me. That's my power, that's my superpower. So have a think, what's your purpose beyond self? Why are you here? Why are you being? Why do you go to work? Who are you doing it for? Your kids? Kids are a massive one. I can't wait to have kids. Because if I could do this for my dad, I can't wait to see what I can do when I've got kids. Having that power beyond self. Having that power, okay? Having that purpose beyond self. Think of what your purpose is. And I promise it will get you through your wildest dreams. And that is the only way. Having that purpose beyond self. Having my dad, having that feeling of my dad always screaming at me. Pulling me up the last, I can feel him pulling me up the last few hundred meters to Everest. If it wasn't for him, I don't know who would have made it. Purpose beyond self was the only way I made it to the top of the world. After the longest 5 hours of my life, the sun came up and my world expanded from a tiny disk of light to what felt like the entire planet. I looked around to find myself almost on the south summit, surrounded by a view of the entire Himalayas from above. Nothing can describe that feeling. I continued on, riding the high of my life, in absolute awe. I was almost at Everest. The wind was much higher than expected, but the weather had held, and the route was almost empty ahead of me. But at the Hillary step, I was snapped back to reality as I passed the bodies of 2 dead climbers. This was incredibly sobering, and reminded me that I was only halfway there, even at the summit. Feeling an indescribable mixture of emotions, I moved past them. But I also knew that death was a part of life here, and a risk we all took on, and I knew that I had to try and enjoy this moment after everything that came before it.
One of the main reasons I'm doing it is Dad, the most level-headed, smart bloke, the most loving and massively hearted man you could ever meet. It's kind of like just the whole shadow of him above me, always feeling that I keep watching. It's like almost gives me the need to just keep on wowing him up there, you know. I look at it as the same as getting on my bike and crossing that road. You know, you've got to be prepared to take the risks if you want to get the rewards. So that's got to be done. Life's too short. See it stream of your face when so ready. Everyone magic was their pinnacle of childhood dream. I remember picking up a book when I was 7 or 8 with Dad Having Everest by Brian Blessed, and I just got me. It was just like that was it from day one. I'm like, no, I want to do it one day. I swear to God, you I don't try.
The feeling of reaching the top of the world after crossing an ocean, 19 countries and 13,000 kilometers to get there is genuinely indescribable. It was everything I ever dreamed of and more. The view was more beautiful than I could have imagined, but it was mixed with the knowledge that I wasn't finished until I was back, safe in base camp. And so after unfurling my flag, with my dad and all the friends and relatives I've lost, as close to the heavens as I could get, it was time to move.
Congratulations, Team AGA, congratulations, Gal J, congratulations, Free, and a massive congratulations, Mitch, you're an absolute fucking legend, well done. Get back done safe, guys, well done, well done.
Things were tense for a while, but as soon as I reached the balcony, I felt myself relax and my achievements sink in. I could finally start to enjoy the ride.
Everest. That's just been conquered. Finally. After 27 years of dreaming, I'm just beyond words at the moment. Today's been so hard. Come down from the summit after a 10-hour side push, 11-hour side push, and then dropping from Camp 4 to Camp 2. That was 8 hours, 7 hours, no energy whatsoever. But just made history. And I kept a promise to myself that I've had for 27 years. It was as beautiful as I could have ever imagined.
What is he?
I know it would be. I know it would be.
Proud.
Thank you, darling. Have a good voice. I'm so shocked.
The next day, there was time to come home. I'm on day 240 of the project, exactly 8 months after I left the shores of Dover, finished this thing once and for all.
Maybe there. That's good. That's a real gambling move, though. That's them. Oh, yeah.
What a pill!
Pretty big, eh? Mitch, he's climbed Everest from England.
Sweden. History.
I
Can't believe it's over.
think we need that. 8 months.
And so Adriana and Stan accompanied me Gelger forward the final few kilometres to the finish line, laughing, joking, surrounding me with love. And it wasn't long before those beautiful yellow tanks came into view.
He's done it. Base camp, mate. That's it.
Physically, you haven't got Everest until you're back to base camp.
So now you climbed Everest.
Everest. Yes.
It's all over.
Yes, Oliver. Holiday.
What a day.
You still loved it. Food.
Now, forget everything. So, forget everything you've heard today. We'll just go over the key takeaways. Forget everything. Redefine your possible. Every one of you here has the ability to make impossible possible. You wait until you feel ready, but no one feels ready until they start. Redefining your possible starts with single, small steps. Your adversity is your superpower. Harness it. I promise you now. A small change in the perception, a small change in the way you think, and your negatives know you're positive. You let struggle silence you instead of letting it shape your strength. And I promise you now from experience, the climb will teach you more than the time it ever will. And that climb includes losing people, includes adversity. Harness it. It's your absolute superpower. Pain is temporary, okay? There's always the light at the end of the tunnel. That's all you need to know about. No matter how much pain you're in, no matter how much you're struggling, emotional, physical, psychological, it's going to end. That's it. Simple as that. I know it sounds easier said than done, but it is really simple as that. It's going to end, and you're going to keep moving forward, and you're going to carry them with you. Never compare yourself to anyone. You are you. You are the myth and the hero of your own story. Never compare yourself to anyone that's sat next to you, your family, your friends, especially not these idiots on TV. Okay? You compare your 5K to someone else's Everest. Both matter. Greatness is personal. Doesn't matter if it's your first 1K walk or an ultra marathon. Both are as amazing as each other. Be relentless in your pursuit for positivity. You see failures at the finish line, you tried, it didn't go to plan, so you hesitated. Be cheerful in the face of adversity. I promise if you can force a smile in them hardest of moments, you can literally get through anything. Use these pillars and compartmentalize, baby steps. One step, one manageable dream at a time. And they all accumulate. Before you've known it, doesn't matter if it's history or if it's you, just get into the end of the day. Get into the end of the week. Exact same model applies to everyone. And we're all the same. You think belief comes after the win, not in taking the first step. one step at a time, and I promise you can get through anything. And discover your purpose beyond self. You might have forgotten, or you don't even know what that is. That's fine, because you're the most important person. But remember, have a think about why you're doing it, who you're making proud. If you've lost someone, whether it's for your kids, they're the most powerful ones. But everything else, for a charity you're doing something for, discover your purpose beyond self, and it will push you further than you ever thought. Basically, guys, the power is in your hands. You see my Everest, now go and conquer yours. I want you to think of something that you thought before today that you couldn't do, or people said you couldn't do, or most importantly, you thought you couldn't do. I want you to leave today and bloody prove yourself wrong. You see my Everest, now go and conquer yours. Thank you for having me, everyone. I'm glad I want to say, thank you, David, before I go, I'm still raising money for that charity, so if anyone wants to follow and see all the videos from day one, you can scan down, leave that up. And then also coming up after, I've luckily been nominated for the 21st Century Venture Award. Only 3 people on the planet get nominated every year. And if we win, £5,000 goes straight to this charity making mental health courses for veterans. So all you need is to register your email and please vote. So I'll click it over to that in a minute, so you've got time for that one, which is tough to follow. But thank you so much. I will take some questions.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much to Mitch. Absolutely amazing. Very moving. Even watching it for the second time, just as moving. So we have got time now for a few questions. Kate's got a mic there. So if anybody has any questions for Mitch, please just raise your hand. There you go, Kate.
Lovely.
I just wanted to ask you, Mitch, did you say that you had swam the channel before you swam it that time, but it was difficult?
The Lake District Challenge was before that. I'd never swam the channel before.
Oh, right.
I'd never swam for a club, I'd never swam competitively. I quit work 6 months before, and then I went to a training camp in Croatia so you have to do a 6-hour qualifying swim, 6 hours non-stop with no wetsuit to even qualify to swim the channel. So I had 6 months from quitting work to be in a position to swim the channel. So
you had to swim without a wetsuit?
Yeah, no wetsuit.
Why is that?
It's not officially recognised as a channel swim unless you do it, so it was literally just swim cap, goggles and Speedos. And on the Speedos actually it had a picture of my dog, Buddy, and me, and the 2 flags, English and French flag, saying, "I'm coming, boy."
So do you think it was more difficult because of the wetsuit?
Well, different things. Wetsuits keep you warm, they make you float better. I sink like a rock. So that's the reason why I've done the Lake District Challenge, because you sink easier in freshwater than saltwater. So I thought if I could put myself through hell, do this world record in the Lake District, I could get through. Like I said, fight harder, train harder than you fight. But no, with a wetsuit and rubbers and that as well. And when you're swimming that long, it's actually some ways better to not have a wetsuit, because people that are watching you, you can kind of keep, if this makes sense, you can keep eye on vitals much easier. So a wetsuit kind of masks symptoms. You know what I mean? So when you've got the coach in there looking at you, you can tell them much easier. I'm feeling cold. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling that. But yeah, I don't want anyone to look at me after there and be like, "You wore a wetsuit. You cheated." So I thought I should do everything properly.
That's amazing.
I'll just flip over to that, guys. That's the one for if you can. That's the one if you can scan for the 21st Century Venture Award, £5,000 straight to make mental health courses. Thank you so much.
And can I ask you what your book's called?
Yeah, so the book is going to be called, it's called Limitless, 9 Pillars to Unlock an Extraordinary Human Potential. And basically, them 9 pillars, them 9 chapters, it's not chapter 1 swim, chapter 2 cycle. That's boring, no one cares. It's how, it's more of a mindset book, self-help book. Doesn't matter if it's a 10-year-old at school, I've done 20 schools in the last 4 months. It doesn't matter if it's a 10-year-old at school or a 50-year-old CEO, everyone can learn from this. Today,
When's it out,
these little steps. Sorry?
When's the book out?
May, June next year, so around Father's Day for me. So it's quite poignant for me because that's when my dad died.
So I just wanted to say that one of my mottos, if I've got a goal, is the pain of discipline is better than the pain of regret.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. So people say, why do you do this, all this? And like you said, I look at it one way. When you get to your deathbed, whenever it is, just try. If ever you thought about doing something but you haven't had the courage, just do it. Because I promise you, when you're on your deathbed, you're going to regret a heck of a lot more if you haven't even tried it than if you tried it and failed. Trying it and failing it is nowhere near as painful as knowing you've never tried. So regret is the biggest killer. So
thank you.
No worries. Anyone else? Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's absolutely incredible what you've achieved. You described ADHD as your superpower.
Absolutely.
Do you think you would have achieved everything if you'd not had ADHD?
I don't think so. No, I think that barrier that barrier which most people have was normal, which is just a stupid not a real thing society's put on us. ADHD just made me kind of think that just that barrier just didn't exist because of ADHD. So when people say that's not possible, or that's not normal, I didn't even think of that. I was like, why? So I think that's just kind of helped, you know, and it is a superpower. So, and it's just about, my mum done amazing. You know, you just got to nurture the kids until they find that superpower, until they find that direction. And it's hard sometimes, but I think I was just lucky that at the age of about 8, I found the outdoors. You know, I'd been gone from literally after school until 10 p.m. at night. You know, I found the outdoors. So it just that limitations that normal people would have, that neurotypical people would have. I think just neurodivergent people just have less of it. You know, and hyper focused. You know, all of that. So that for me, I'm so thankful. So yeah, it just made me just believe basically. So yeah, anyone else? Want it back? Amazing.
I'd just like to ask you what next.
No. Oh, well, just about put the weight back on. Just mainly to, honestly, people say what's next, but like I said, for me, this wasn't about breaking records or making things, you know, it was about doing something that I always dreamed of doing, and I've done it now. I'm so happy. But going around what's next, going around to schools, going around to doing these hundreds of talks that actually genuinely help people with what's next. There are some big expeditions coming, like starting next year. As I say, we've got the book coming out, HarperCollins. Hopefully Netflix documentary as well. The production's in now for the documentary. Touch wood.
And you've got a second dog as well, haven't you?
Yeah, and we just again, yeah, I mean, my 2 dogs are just over there actually. I've just rescued a 4-year-old cocker spaniel who was kept in the cage for 4 years, never had a walk, never had a name. So in 2 weeks, you can follow along if you can follow along. I'm doing the Great British Dog Walk, so that's the next kind of little challenge. The next kind of, I say, comparison. So we're doing 16 back-to-back marathons. I'm going running from the lowest point to the highest point in the UK. So I'm from Cambridge to the top of Ben Nevis in Scotland. 16 marathons in a row to get as many dogs rescued as possible, and to get a petition to make change the illegal dog laws. So if anyone wants to follow along to that, then please do. And you'll just follow along to that, and there'll be updates every day. So that's what's next. So it's trying to do a book, which is 2 months to finish a book, and yeah, life's just a bit mad. I'm trying to just remember how to be human again. Yeah. Any more? We've got time for anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's around sort of like, obviously you're on ADHD.
Yeah.
Would you plan to do sort of like support young people who have ADHD and sort of inspire them? Is that something that
I already have. I've already done 4 schools specifically for kids with ADHD. So yeah, massively.
Yeah.
And we've even just been, last week, we got called up by one of the biggest children's publishers for doing a kids book aimed for ADHD and all that kind of stuff. So turning the main adult story into a kids book stories about Buddy, me and ADHD and how it's your superpower and how you define what's possible.
I think that'd be amazing because I work with a lot of young people with ADHD, so I'll definitely sort of like speak about you sort of when I meet with young people. I think it's really important that.
Well, I'll come back and see you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely, just message Jenny. Spam now, I know. Spam.
Jenny's now Mitch's PA.
Oh, she always was unofficially anyway.
Bit of a random one.
That's
Why
fine.
was your bike so tall?
The bike? I don't know. I mean, it was. I hadn't even touched the bike or assembled it or ridden it once in my life until France when I put it together to begin the bike ride. So I just had to. It was just the right size for me. You know, I knew.
It didn't have a.
Your leg needs to be just about straight. So.
I think wasn't there a second bike with a camera on it?
Yeah, no, not a second bike. So the Stan, who was amazing, my cameraman, he was be like in the car, kind of taking pictures and all that. I'd obviously never be in the car, but he would take pictures from wherever. And yeah, so, but we luckily managed to get, so when I got to Calais, I decided, because we're going to have this cameraman now, which was never planned, which is amazing, because now we have the opportunity for the documentary, I thought I'll get a spare bike. So I bought like this really cheap 400 quid one from Decathlon in Calais, and so we kind of had that in the vehicle, you know, so as a spare, so in case the catastrophic crash. I mean, I was chased by dogs, knocked off my bike in Iraq, in Baghdad, knocked over and off by taxis, ran off the road by trucks. You know, if something bad happened, I could just literally get the other one out quick without having to lose days. Because this was a race. Everyone said, why you call it a race? You know, race from England to Mount Everest. I had to get to Everest by the climbing season, otherwise I would have missed the 3-week window to climb. So that's what we ended up doing. Sorry, tangent ADHD. I know, yeah. Anyone else?
You said you
held at gunpoint as well.
Yeah, well, my team was. I just missed out on that. It was kind of, that's funny because it was the opposite. So we were in Serbia. We just got this school bus, from 1998, this old school bus that my friend had driven 17 hours from London to Budapest for us because Buddy was only with me for the first 5 countries after Hungary. So as soon as I got to Turkey, Bulgaria, so Eastern Europe and Iraq, hundreds of stray dogs. To say I was bitten, chased, it would have been unsafe for him. So he was in the camper van that we had for the first 3 weeks. He then went back with that. My friend had to drive this beat up old school bus to us in Budapest, which we then drove from Budapest all the way to the Iraq border in Turkey. But when we were in Serbia, we had to rip out my cameraman had to rip out the seats. Because we were literally, we were sleeping in this van. You know, I do my 150k a day, and then we just sleep in the back of this, on the floor of this ripped up old school bus. And that's what we had for the next 3,000k. But when they went to the scrapyard in Serbia, these guys were so friendly. They were like, yeah, we'll take it, but we want to pay you. And like, they couldn't really speak English. They were like insisting on paying for us to give them the seats. And after I say, no, it's okay, we've got any money. They got a magnum, got a gun out, a loaded revolver. Like, take the money, take the money. We got it all on video. Like, it's hilarious. Like, it's a loaded revolver. So I recognise the weapon. And it's just like whoa, it's all on film. So it was kind of the opposite of being held at gunpoint. It's a funny story. It's a funny story. I just got on call on the bike, like going through Belgrade in Serbia, like, we just had a gunpoint out on us because they wouldn't let's take money. So I was like, take the money. Simple. Yeah.
Got one here.
Yeah.
I was just interested. I know you were inspired from a young age about climbing, and you said you went to Africa when you were 15.
Yeah.
How did you kind of set that up? Because it's it's a very inspiring, your story, you know, for other young people who might want to get into that kind of thing. And I know you see a lot of that on social media now, people using climbing, hiking for mental health.
That's massive.
Just like ways of getting into that, you know, for young people as well.
I mean, just honestly, just getting out there is the easiest thing to say. I mean, I done it. I was just turned 16, but because it was just my dream, because of my ADHD, and I just did not take no for an answer. You know, I had to call about 100 companies between the ages of 14 and 15 to find a company that would take me, because I was up to 18 on my own. But just eventually I did, and I don't know, I was just stubborn. But for kids like that, as I say, the hardest thing is just getting them out there. Once they are out there, they're inspired. So next year I'm starting the Limitless Foundation, which is running free mental health and wellness courses and venture courses led by me, for young people and people struggling with mental health. So I hope to start. Yeah, first things first, to get myself on my feet. Not had a paycheck in 18 months. Then I'll sort that out. So yeah, thank you.
I just want to quickly ask about the Everest.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested that I've read somewhere about the massive queues.
Oh yeah,
to the
I'm
top.
so lucky.
So when you were there, it seemed empty.
Yep, so there was not a single person. I'll show you later. Come up, I've got a picture on my screensaver on my phone. Is the view I had. Not one. There was one person towards me. You couldn't see. Not a single person I could see on the hill sat. So I was so
You
lucky.
said there's a 3-week climbing.
About 3 weeks. That's it. Yeah. So that's it. So they set the ropes to the summit, and you've literally got 3 weeks before they take them down. So I had to get. I literally had 19 countries, injury, illness, car crashes, logistics, funding, all of that could have all been over on day one. So I had to get there in time. But yeah, so the view, I was no one there. I was very lucky as well. So because my team was so amazing. Girls,
Yeah, because I've read as well that actually the queues and the amount of people is what is quite dangerous.
That's the most dangerous thing when you stood there, yeah. So I was very lucky because, so I didn't know who I was climbing Everest with until I got to Iraq. Like, I had no idea. I had no kit, and then I was climbing Everest with. Relentless pursuit of positivity, blind optimism, can carry you anywhere. So when I got there, I knew I was climbing with, ended up with an amazing guy, Gelji. He's got climbed Everest 10 times. He's like my brother now. So I was the only person they had. Some of these other companies had like 50 people that they had to climb, or 50 people that were climbing Everest. I was the only person. So that we had like the oxygen in place, ready to go. So second that green light was given, like, now, okay, you can go. We were like, right, we can take it. Weather was bad. So not only was it the longest climb of Everest in history, I was also the first person to climb it this year, out of 600. So an extra cherry on top of the cake. And I had that view that probably only 1% of people ever have seen.
Awesome.
No one. So yeah, it was amazing. Shout out, yeah?
I think we'll just say that.
Last one?
Last
Yeah,
one.
that's fine. Sorry, chat forever.
No.
ADHD.
Yeah, sorry, I just wondered whether you were ever given medication for the ADHD as a child.
So I nearly did as a kid. I very nearly did. My mum nearly got me medicated, but I kind of quite quickly just naturally got on with it. With again, I wouldn't recommend that necessarily, but I obviously just found the outdoors, found my passion, and I was lucky enough to find a bit of find my passion. So I never actually did. My sister's on it, and I'm much worse than her. And she always says you should go, you should go on it. But I'm just lucky myself to have kind of, you know.
I was just wondering, would you have achieved what you have if you?
Maybe not, because if it I don't know. I mean, I've never been on it. If it had, you know, numbed the effects or whatever, then who knows? But I'm just so thankful.
If you'd have been more compliant, you might have listened to the people who said no. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you very much.